Okay, let's move along to some women's hockey. The NWHL playoffs have recommenced. Tonight, the Boston Pride took down the Toronto Six. Chris, talk to me about it.
It was tough,
Yeah.
but I had spoken about it a little bit in one of my articles on the 6 games during the actual bubble. The Boston Pride last year, they had in their full season, I think they had made the final for the cup, but then it was closed, like everything shut down because of COVID. They had won, I think, 22 games and lost 2 all year. They have Julian Dempsey, who is the undisputed best NWHL player ever. So many talented players that it was really weird to see them in the bubble struggle so hard. Like, they were the 4th seed, and they only finished 4th because the last game was forfeited. They really squeaked into the playoffs, and it was always, hey, if Boston wakes up, like, the Six is fucked.
Yeah.
And if it had been played like during the bubble, like, I'm pretty sure that momentum would have carried too. Like, there are little things that sucked for Toronto in this case that made it easier for Boston. Like, the players for the Six all had to quarantine before they could practice last week.
Okay.
And then, so they did a 2-week quarantine. They've practiced, and then they drove by bus to Boston, 10-hour bus ride yesterday. But it's the reality of the game right now, and so
these are also women who have, day jobs, right? Like, there's more going on.
Yeah, and we'll talk a bit about that after, because I wanted to highlight a particular interview that we'll talk about quite a bit.
Yeah.
But before the game, I was looking at things like, hey, remember how much I loved Grant Mentis? Well, the numbers add up to that, and yeah, she was like the leader in expected goals by like a significant margin. But sneakily behind her was Brianne Wilson Bennett,
okay,
BWB, who was really, really good also. And today, I thought they both played really, really well. A goal that hit the post, or a shot that hit the post, about the 6-minute mark into the game, and up until that point, Toronto had been like pushing, and Boston looked out of sorts. The goal hit the post. They went to review, didn't go in. And immediately afterward, Boston scored. 30 seconds later, they scored again. And then you went, ooh, this is tough. And then, Grant meant that she did it again. She carried the puck up the whole ice. She got to the blue line. She made a move to the outside. Strong backhand. Like, I'm talking Sidney Crosby backhand, like, fired it on net. The goalie struggled, obviously, with that kind of power. You're not going to get a clean save. And Wilson Bennett put it in, and I went, hey, all those expected goals, they finally went through. And then the Six fell apart immediately afterwards, and the game was lost. It was tough, but
it's. I mean, like, look, Gidget Murphy was saying this the entire time, right? That they were the considered the underdogs, despite the fact that they were the number 1 seed here. And I don't. Like,
yeah, actually, out of fun, like, who the Boston Pride coach was? Montreal Canadiens legend Paul Mara.
Really?
Yeah. No way. And so there's a few things that I wanted to highlight too about the actual game. So, remember that when the bubble was happening, there was a COVID outbreak, and we had lost Brooke Boquist.
Yeah.
Well, she actually was able to come play, but McNeil and Claremont couldn't because they had work. Right, like there were work commitments that didn't let them come to the tournament. So Toronto played today with 10 forwards. Towards the end of the game, like, especially when it got to 4-1, the legs start dying on you, and you have to double shift. Like, it's hard to come back from something like that.
Yeah.
So before we end off on this, I wanted to say that it's my fault. I didn't notice that Mandy Cronin, who was the GM of the Six, actually had said in February she was let go.
Okay.
And there was no clear indication as to who took over. Based on stuff that I've read with Marissa Njemi and Lance Strohol, it seems like Gidget Murphy kind of took over that job also.
Okay.
So, Gidget Murphy, what can't you do? This is a woman of many hats now.
Yeah, really.
She's the team president, the GM, and the coach. So, something to look forward to next year. And she said in her press conference after the season ended that, it's tough because of all the work that all the players' jobs. They don't know if they'll be back next year, but it seems like most of the 6 players will return. Then some small things. So PWHPA, they announced same kind of setup they had in Chicago and New York. They're going to have one in St. Louis in April. And they announced that the Canadian games are coming. So we know that
Beautiful.
there'll be a similar setup. I'm assuming there'll be games in Montreal and Toronto, probably played at the Bell Center and the Scotiabank Arena.
Awesome.
No confirmation on those, but it seems like that's the case. And then I wanted to highlight something that I think everyone should listen to if they have time. Marissa and Jemmy went on 31 Thoughts this week.
Yeah, it's a great interview.
Yeah, for those who haven't heard it, it's about 30 minutes, so it's really worth your time.
Yeah.
She talks a lot about the state of women's hockey in general, unlike the PWH, the PWHPA, the NWHL, but also the differences and
sticking points.
Some of the realistic options that we have to, put out of our head. Like the NHL has had several chances to come and help, and they decided not to.
Yeah.
First, they said we'd only do it when there's one league. There is only one league. They're not coming. It's that we need to stop doing that. But she said something that I thought was more important than anything else that we need to say. So, and it's something that I've done too. And having heard her say this, it makes me want to rethink how we're going to do this going forward. So she said, I would like for women's hockey to be at a place where we talk about it the way we talk about men's hockey. And that is, hey, this game happened. This player was good. This player was bad. This sucked. This didn't suck.
Yeah.
The Penguins lost this game because Tristan Jarry let in 5 awful goals. And instead what we do is talk a lot about what's wrong with the women's game.
Yeah.
Why can't the NWHL agree with the PWHPA? Why do the players hate each other? What's the next step? Are they ever going to get along? And these are things that I also had on my mind, that I don't want to do that. Having heard what she explained, that the best thing we can do for women's hockey is just treat it like men's hockey.
Yeah.
Focus on the game itself.
And I mean, I will say in fairness, even tonight we've had some in-depth discussions with things that we think the NHL can be doing much, much better than they are. That being said, I completely agree with you that it feels like it's taken up way too much spotlight. Like, it does feel like it's kind of become a distraction.
And I did it particularly in the last episode. So
I did as well. Yeah.
This one here, and from now on, we're going to talk about the good, the bad in the games, the good, the bad in the players. And that's it. If there's stuff that comes up that needs to be said, we'll say it. Yeah. But if not, we're going to talk about athletes and athletes only.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be the best way we can help, which is it was a nice way for me personally to see what is really needed as like a newcomer to this quote unquote reporting of it. You know what I mean? Because just as a fan, everyone's got a different method.
For sure.
But to push the game forward, you want to do it on their terms. And I think that's the best way for us to handle it. So we're going to do strict hockey analysis only. And I'll make it more in depth than this player is amazing. I will give you I've found like there's guys like Mike Murphy who do the expected goals, who do shot locations for these games, and that's what I'm going to focus on. So that's what I wanted to clarify here. And I wanted to give a story. I don't know if you guys read, Charlie Coyle was interviewed today about the NWHL games.
Yeah, I didn't hear this. I saw you wrote this down.
Yeah. So Charlie Coyle was talking about, he grew up in the same town as Jillian Dempsey, who's the captain of the Boston Pride. I told you, the best NWHL player ever.
Okay.
She would come to he was saying when they were younger, she would come to the boys' practices and absolutely show them up. Like, just school them. Like, even into like I think he said they were like 13, 14 or something like that. And she was still tearing them apart. And then he said something that I found interesting. And I don't know if I've told you, Spence, but I've told Ty for sure, that one of the things that I like most about watching women's hockey is how nice they skate.
Yeah.
Every player has like a really nice fluid technique, super smooth. The edge work is always amazing. And
I never thought about it.
I find it's a really like it's visually appealing when you watch them skate. They just seem to have the technique down pat, and especially like having coached, like you want to train someone to skate a certain way, and you always get one or two guys. Like Ty and I are the perfect example. We both skate really differently, and they're both entirely wrong.
Neither of them look good, and neither of them are good.
And you know, like there's guys that you think of in particular, like Crosby, McDavid. Like, yes, they skate nice, but there are weird things that they do.
Yeah.
Like McDavid's feet never really leave the ice, which is cool, but it's not like the perfect technique.
Yeah.
And when you watch the NWHL or the PWHPA, you can really see the edge work and the minute details in weight shifting, strides, especially in acceleration. Like their V cuts are really perfect in the beginning. You can really see them laid out. Like it's a very cool way to look at small details. And Charlie Coyle mentioned it, that a lot of NHL players like how smooth they skate. And so I felt gratified to know that, hey, I've been noticing this the whole time. I was right.
Yeah,
so,
that's interesting.
For all of you Islanders fans, fuck you, I was right about something.